Welcome to Happy Planet, where we speak with entrepreneurs, investors, and thought leaders driving the impact economy. I'm your host, Abigail Carroll. Many of us want to eat our cake and have it too, but today's entrepreneur is selling spiny lobster parts and managing to keep the lobster too. Today's story is a story of pivoting, something many entrepreneurs find they have to do in the early stages of their businesses. Christophe Maier is the founder and CEO of Lagosta, a burgeoning pan-European company that is in the business of spiny lobster aquaculture. Christophe thought he was going to grow his lobsters for the premium seafood market, but pivoted when he discovered he could upcycle a lobster byproduct and sell it at a huge premium to pharmaceutical companies. And good news to the lobsters, they get released into the Mediterranean. Let's hear it from Christophe. Start a little bit at the beginning. Your business, Lagosta, is based in Monaco, and you are raising spiny lobsters.
Spiny lobsters, not to be confused with the traditional lobster that you have in Maine.
Right. And it's not just any spiny lobster, it's the royal spiny lobster.
Royal spiny lobster, exactly. And I'm in Switzerland because the mother company is headquartered in Switzerland. That's for the operational and administrative aspects for the time being. And we have the R&D and production, small-scale facility production site in Monaco.
So that gets us to why you're growing these spiny lobsters. Because you used to grow them for food, and now you're growing them just for the molted shell.
That's correct. Indeed, the initial plan was to raise these animals for the seafood market because there is such a high demand, increasing demand worldwide to access such prestigious seafood products. And the stocks in nature are declining really dramatically sharply. And we wanted to do something about it and to have some relief on fisheries, on stocks, and so on. And the goal was initially to raise these animals for the seafood market. And since they grow so fast in our system, that each individual loses its carapace naturally in our system once every 3 months.
It's amazing.
The weight of one of these molts is on average approximately 100 grams. So, as you may imagine, 100 grams times 10, so you already have 1 kilo plus of a byproduct, because this is a byproduct. This is waste. Can you imagine if you start having hundreds of thousands of these individuals, which each individual molting once every 3 months, you have a huge amount of these byproducts. And interestingly, since my colleagues and myself have also a lot of experience and expertise in the field of biotechnology, we said, well, we need to do something about these byproducts and try to valorize them. And because we have pretty large network worldwide with institutions, universities, and different laboratories, we worked with 5 different laboratories worldwide, and we rapidly have seen that one of these compounds that is present in these naturally generated molts is called chitin. And chitin, you transform it in the laboratory, it gives birth to a new compound called Chitosan. And Chitosan today is a very well-known compound used in numerous applications, agriculture, primarily in the field of cosmetics. But what is really interesting is that for the last, I would say, 15 years, there is a huge army of scientists all around the world that have shown the benefits of using Chitosan in numerous therapeutics, in numerous biomedical applications. It ranges from skin replacement. In the field of oncology, in cancer, it can be used as a drug carrier. It also has shown to have a huge impact and effect against COVID-19 virus. I mean, the list is very exhaustive, and it has been highly reported in the scientific literature. And because of the particularity of our Chitosan that we have based on our naturally generated molts from our spiny lobsters, we have created, as of today, a unique biomedical Chitosan that we want to devote for the biomedical industry, meaning biotechnology, pharma companies, research institutions, or universities. We have done this since 2016. So it's not something that we have elaborated just in 2 months. It took us years. It involved 5 different laboratories worldwide. But today our product is ready. And it is currently being tested by external partners for further validation, knowing that we have worldwide experts that already have confirmed about the quality, the uniqueness of our product compared to a commercialized product today on the market. So our goal is now to reach the market this year. And obviously, we will need to increase our capacity because as of today, we only have a prototype facility that is located in Monaco. And it won't be sufficient to fulfill the worldwide demand for such type of product. And therefore, we are currently setting up a large production site in Portugal.
So what are the properties? I mean, because you can get chitin out of any crab shell, American lobster shells. You can get them from lots of sources. Why is yours so special?
It's a very good question. The thing is, we are, as of today, the only ones working with the spiny lobsters. Okay, everything is being derived, as you said, today in terms of chitosan from shrimps or crabs or fungi as well. But nobody else is working with spiny lobsters. So originally, already the species you're working with plays a role in the end product. Then it's the way you raise your animal. Okay, typically the shrimp industry, it's outside facilities. Okay, and they are exposed to different environmental conditions. In our case, we are working in a closed system in which we can control all parameters in terms of water quality, in terms of whatever you want to. That's another thing that plays an important role because we are really working on really pure water, let's put it this way, to have something exceptional at the end. Then what happens is that today, everything, the whole industry, the chitosan industry relies on extracted carapace on which you have killed the animal. You have either mechanically or manually extracted the carapace from the body. On our end, we are not affecting the animals. We just let the animals releasing naturally their molt, their carapace, their shell, whatever, and we just collect them every morning in our system that we put them on the freezer. We are not affecting, touching at all the animals, which is already a big differentiator. Then plays an important role as well, which is the bioprocess. So we have designed a specific customized bioprocess for our spiny lobster chitosan. Then if you target the biomedical field, what is really important is traceability. And today, typically, what you find on the market, there is not much of traceability. Here in our system, because we are working in a closed environment, it brings us to another advantage that we have, is that spiny lobsters are a little bit like humans, in a sense that they also have fingerprints.
That just blows my mind.
The spiny lobsters have a different pattern on their body, okay? They have little dots, they have a lot of different colors and so on. And even when they lose their carapace every 3 months in our system, the new carapace has exactly the same pattern. It's exactly the same. So what happens is that in our system, every time there is a molt, you just need to take the molt, put it under the camera, our AI system that we have developed specifically for this activity, and it will relate you to which individual it is. And you can therefore track the whole growth of these individuals. And at the end, when you produce this unique biomedical chitosan, you can, in the event of any potential issue, you may revert back to each individual or to where it's being derived from. So this is another advantage. So the species plays a role, the way you grow your individuals, then the type of byproduct, either a carapace or naturally generated molt, the type of bioprocess that you may have, and also, again, is the traceability system.
Amazing. There's a lot of different scientific technologies that are being pulled together to produce this product.
Exactly. What is the biggest concern? It's allergies. Okay, many people are allergic actually to shrimp, seafood, shellfish, and so on.
Yeah.
But we know from where it comes from. It comes from typically chitosan has shown also sometimes to show some allergical aspects or side effects. And that comes from the level of proteins actually in the end product. Here again, because we are working on naturally generated molts, there is no flesh associated. Remember, if you extract from the body, you have flesh associated with it. So what you need to do, you need to cook the shell first to degrade the proteins or the flesh that is associated to it. We don't have all these things. So the level of proteins that we have in our biomedical chitosan is zero. We limit dramatically all these potential allergy side effects.
That's amazing.
And we are now setting up this large production site in Portugal.
Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about the aquaculture. You're raising these spiny lobsters. So what's this like? Where are they living? They're in Monaco. They're not at the casino.
They live in Monaco in a pretty nice hotel. We qualify it as a 5-star hotel for these individuals. And the reason why we call it this way, because spiny lobsters, when you try to raise them indoor, or if you prefer in captivity, they need to have an operational plant that is designed for their well-being. If this is not the case, actually what will the spiny lobster do is almost nothing. Why? Because if spiny lobsters do not have the right temperature, the right quality of water, the right type of food, the setting in the tanks, the right number of individuals, the current as well plays a role in the tank, the light, and many other aspects. If you miss to provide them one of these criteria, the spiny lobsters will do nothing. It would be quite similar to seafood restaurants have at the entrance a tank with either lobster, the traditional lobster, or spiny lobsters, but they're not moving. They're here, they're nice, great, but they're not moving. Why? Because nothing is right, actually, in terms of conditions. So what we have done is that over the last more than 25 years, we know very well these individuals because they are very complex animals. And we know them so well that we have designed this 5-star hotel. And as a result of that, it's party 24 hours a day.
Nice. Fitting of Monaco.
So it's party 24 hours a day. And they eat a lot, therefore. They eat a lot. And it translates in significant growth for the individuals compared in the wild. And actually, in our setting, our spiny lobsters grow up to 6 times faster than in the wild.
That seems like a seriously huge number.
And 100% of the food that we are using is organics. And we are also not using any chemicals, no antibiotics at all.
Wow.
The survival rate that we have in our system is more than 90%.
Is there any cannibalism in the lobsters? Because I know in Maine, if you leave a bunch of lobsters in the tank too long, they start to eat each other.
No, it hasn't. Spiny lobsters are totally different than the traditional lobster that you may find in Maine, in Canada. What characterizes the traditional lobster are the claws. Spiny lobsters don't have claws. They have spines on the carapace, hence we're calling them the spiny lobsters. The lobster, if you try to raise them in indoor in captivity, indeed, you need to separate them because it's a cannibalistic species. That's the reason why you also see when you're trying to buy live lobster, they put them in tanks and they have the rubber bands. But spiny lobsters, it's different. They like to live in community. Actually, if you try to separate them and you put one individual in a box, they're getting really stressed. They have also kind of a hierarchy. When living in a community, they talk each others, they communicate each others, they're doing sounds, and the studies have shown that they may produce up to 7 different types of sounds as a communication. Again, it's a very complex animal that has not been very well studied.
So I really am interested in this sort of aspect of they're getting lonely. On our oyster farm, we found that if we stocked our bags where we grew the oysters too thinly, they didn't grow as well. There was this perfect happy number in the bags. We called it the colony effect. You know, you needed a certain number of oysters either on the bottom to be able to survive and filter through the silt or even in the bags. And I think there was a sense of competition coming in, right? There's resources like flowing through the bags. And if you had a little competition, it actually made it better. They filtered more. If there was enough, maybe they were a little lazy, you know, and they didn't grow as fast. So is that the kind of thing you see in your tanks?
You need to have a right number of individuals in the tank as well. If you have not enough, it creates stress. If you have too many, it gets to be a little bit complex as well.
And so these tanks are big enough so these guys can move around.
Exactly. They can move and they can use the whole spectrum of the tanks. It's not only spiny lobsters on the floor, they use the full volume of the whole area in the tank.
And is it just spiny lobsters in the tank, or are there other animals for them to associate with?
No, however, we are working on new techniques, actually trying to combine a different set of species together.
Do lobsters play?
What I can tell you, they help each other. In all crustaceans, including the shrimps, the lobster, and of course our spiny lobsters, is that when they grow, these animals need to lose their carapace. This is the natural process called the molting process. And this is something that takes hours to complete. It's pretty intense in terms of amount of energy that they use. It takes hours. And what we see is that during the process, we see other individuals coming and helping them to extract from their shell.
Very interesting. So you are not breeding spiny lobsters in your facility. You're getting them their bycatch from other fisher people, if I understand correctly.
That's correct. That's for the time being, because we are currently finalizing the larval development process, which is again not an easy one because it includes a large number of different steps. It's a little bit a Star Trek movie. You have to see here little spiders that totally transform over time in different cycles and so on. Obviously, it takes time. We, as of today, control more than 70% of this whole process, and we intend to complete it within the next 2 years. For the time being, we are relying on the stocks that are being taken from the wild. So we buy directly from the quotas from fisheries. We are not adding any additional pressure. We just buy directly from the quotas from the fisheries. But what is really interesting with the whole model is that today with technology, you know where these individuals are being collected in the wild, okay? It's not like a net. We know exactly from GPS location where these individuals are coming from. And then remember, they have this fingerprint, and we have developed this artificial intelligence traceability system, is that each individual, before entering our 5-star hotel, he's being artificially tagged with a name, and then each individual, which is market size, will spend 2 years of vacation in our system. And each individual will lose approximately 8 times its carapace during this 2-year period. And after 2 years, can you imagine, you have not a nice spiny lobsters, you have huge spiny lobsters. It's more than 1 kilo plus. These are really big guys. So what do we do with these guys at some point after 2 years? Because they are really, really big individuals. Because we can track, we know for each individual in the system, and because we know from where they were originally collected or fished in the wild, thanks to the GPS location, we put them back, thanks to our conservation programs with governments and foundations, back to where they were originally collected in the wild. So they're going back to where they were originally collected with some advantages at that time, because the individuals will be 3 times bigger than 2 years before. So that means bigger, stronger, meaning less subject to predation from sharks, eels, murrays, or whatsoever, other predators. And also because we can control, as of today, reproduction, we can release back females that carry dozens of thousands of eggs that at some point will hatch in nature and further replenish stocks in the wild. So for fisheries, the model, it's pretty interesting because initially we buy from fisheries, let's put it this way, teenagers in terms of size. These are market size. They spend 2 years in our system, and the fishermen can still, again, collect them, and they can even collect more because we are putting
the eggs. It's amazing. So you really are sort of passively sending lobsters to the market because you're actually putting the stronger, more survivable lobsters back out there that will breed and be able to have a greater opportunity to survive. Because I was going to ask why you don't sell the lobsters when you're done back to the market, but they're probably too big.
They're huge. I can tell you they're huge.
Like, how big is that, like, in length?
Uh, oh la la, it's pretty big in centimeters, 60, 70 centimeters. But you have to see
Wow.
here, actually, because today the spiny lobsters that you find in the supermarket at the restaurant are teenagers. It took them already in a while 8 to 10 years to come to that size. But if you let them grow over time, after 20, 30, 40 years, these guys are huge. But you don't find these very large individuals anymore because of the pressure from the fisheries over time on this population, unfortunately.
After a short break, we'll learn about Lagosta's current challenges and their exciting plans for the future. A big thanks to the Maine Technology Institute, MTI, investing in innovation for a prosperous Maine. MTI is Maine's unique public-private partnership whose core mission is to diversify and grow Maine's economy by accelerating innovation in the state's targeted technology sectors. MTI offers grants, loans, equity investments, and services to support Maine entrepreneurs and organizations as they transform their innovative ideas into new products, services, and companies, leading to the creation of quality jobs for Maine people. For more information about MTI and its programs, please visit mainetechnology.org. For a blue economy to thrive, people need to use more sustainable products. But which products? And will consumers actually adopt them? Innovators like you are hustling to figure this out. Spark number 9 can tell you if there's demand for your product. Spark markets your product before it's built using online advertising so you launch smarter. Have a big idea? Vet it with Spark before you build. Visit Spark online at www.sparkno9.com or find them on LinkedIn. We're back with Happy Planet. One challenge Lagosta is facing is rising sea temperatures, since they're pumping water right into the facility from the Mediterranean.
Yeah, it's a very warm year, and same as for our spiny lobsters in Monaco, because still the temperature that we are pumping at more than 20 meters in depth are still at 16 degrees Celsius, which is 5 degrees more to usually what we usually have during this period of the year. So they have not seen this in 30 years. What we see actually as observed for the last 3 years actually, we see temperature of the water increasing very dramatically starting already in May. It's getting worse and worse. And if you work with tropical species, it's not really affecting them. But if you work with cold water species, they don't like warm temperatures, specifically in the Mediterranean. When it comes to summer and the water gets warmer, these individuals go, in the depth up to more than 100 meters in depth. So they really escape, all the heat. In our system, it's different. Actually, we're in a closed system, we are pumping water, and it's getting warmer and warmer. That means you need to have a lot of capacity in terms of pumps, in terms of heating or cooling systems in place. And the impact is that we need to increase this capacity now. It's in an additional investment in order to keep the right temperature for these individuals, because we could just let the temperature go higher, but it will affect the growth dramatically.
Right. I mean, it's shocking to hear those numbers right now. All right, you mentioned that you're raising money, you're building a facility in Portugal. Tell me about that.
So in order to expand, our capacity, we are currently setting up a large production site that will be in Portugal. This is based on the thorough investigations that have been made for more than 2 years, trying to identify in Europe and north of Africa a site that could accommodate our technical requirements. Again, spiny lobsters, you need to have really exceptional type of water quality, and it's not easy to find a place where you have such type of profiles. Surprisingly, and that was really a big surprise at that time when we started our operations in Monaco in 2014, is that Monaco has very good, exceptional water, surprisingly, because there are a lot of boats and human activities, but the water quality is really great. And we found similar type of profile in Portugal, hence we are currently setting up our large-scale production site there. And the approach will be not to start building, large concrete facilities, but will be to use recycled maritime containers that are customized to our technical requirements. That will facilitate the implementation, meaning when you place the order, it will take less time than just building a large facility with concrete. You need authorizations.
Yeah,
As you
for
know,
sure.
unfortunately, there are always delays. Here you order your containers that are well customized for your needs. You just adapt them, let's put it this way, pretty rapidly, and it's more like a plug and play approach. In terms of implementation, in terms of execution, and in terms of investment, it is pretty interesting knowing that you can, with such type of model, you can rapidly increase if we need the capacity as well, or if you need to move as well for any reason, the facility elsewhere, you can pretty rapidly do it as well.
If you're building this facility, presumably you've got some sales in the works.
Exactly. So primarily, the whole production will be dedicated for the production of these molts, of these byproducts that we will then bioprocess to generate this unique biomedical Chitosan that we will sell to the Pharma companies, let's put it this way, for which we are already in close contacts. It will rapidly generate significant amount of revenue over time. Here we're talking about millions pretty rapidly because we are targeting the biomedical segment. And the approach will obviously generate significant amount of money that we were going to be in a position then to devote and to other type of activities as well. Again, here we're tackling only just a portion of the potential of spiny lobsters. It's huge in terms of potential, what we could really take into consideration and move forward for the years to come.
Are there other apps that you could do with the molts itself? It doesn't have to be chitin, does it? It could be something else.
Exactly. There are way other compounds that you can extract. Obviously, it requires other developments, bioprocesses,
Yeah.
and so on. So we need to work, step by step. But we'll get there. As I said, the potential is really, really big.
That's awesome. So just to be clear, you are in the middle of a fundraise right now.
That's correct.
Are you looking for investors?
We are obviously in touch with a lot of parties currently performing due diligences all around the world, but it's still ongoing. We are currently performing a Series A financing round of 10 million Swiss francs, up to 5 million Swiss francs in equity. The rest will be in debt with banks, primarily to support the implementation of the large-scale facility in Portugal. But yeah, we are still in discussion. It's not closed yet.
It sounds pretty fun. So you are Swiss. Switzerland has no ocean. How did you end up being in marine biology for starters and get involved in spiny lobsters?
Well, it's definitely passion that led me to today work in this field. I've been exposed since my very early years with the ocean, specifically in the Mediterranean, where I was going on vacation with my parents. Since the age of 4 or 5, I can still remember already looking the whole day, the little crabs and so on. I was already fascinated by these individuals. And passion has obviously led me to perform then studies elsewhere than Switzerland. So I went first to south of France for almost 2 years. I was exposed at the university to marine courses, oceanography, and also get exposed to the Oceanographic Museum of Monaco with some contacts there already at that time. And then I went to Florida for more than 3 years at the Florida Tech. What was really nice is that, first of all, that there was a division of aquaculture within the university. And I had a portion of a lab in which I was able to do some experimentation. At that time, it was more trying to understand these animals because, again, nobody knows well spiny lobsters. It's really difficult to study them in nature. So I really wanted to try to understand how they behave actually in tanks. When we graduated in 2000, I was really keen to do something in the field. But my ideas at that time were not aligned with the technology that was not ready at that time. Let's put it this way. The market price was not the one that you see today on the market. So in terms of commercial feasibility, It was really challenging. So I decided to return back to Switzerland to do business. So I was involved with numerous biotech companies. I also created 3 other biotech companies that are still active and primarily dedicated to the development of therapeutics for rare diseases. This is where I gained, all this experience in setting up, startups, fundraising, and moving things forward.
So you fell in love with the Mediterranean. That sounds like the story.
Indeed.
There are a lot of people interested in this industry. What advice would you give to them today?
Well, potential is definitely there, specifically in the field of marine biology, oceanography, and so on. What is really important then is not only just trying to raise money. Money is one thing, but you may have a good idea, a good project. But what is for me really important is to get the right people with you. There are a lot of traps. For young entrepreneurs, I've seen it also in the past. When you have a good idea, a lot of people would try to be on board as well with you. It might be good, but sometimes the more you are, there might be redundancy of competences, of experience, expertise, and then it's pretty difficult to change everything. So what I would say is, if you have a good idea, good project, get the right people. At Lagosta, what we have is we don't have an army of people, actually. It's a small team, but there is no redundancy in terms of experience, expertise. Everyone knows actually what needs to be done. Trust between the individuals, trust, respect, and communication. If you have the good team, the good product, very likely you will attract, and if you're passionate, you will attract investors and to bring it to success.
Thank you so much, Christophe, today for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And I hope that one day I'll be already in a position to welcome you at our facility in Monaco and later this year in Portugal for the large-scale facility.
I love it. I can't wait to check in with Christophe down the road and hear how this operation is evolving. I would also like to hear how he's dealing with these climate challenges. I just love the story and operation, and not just because I'm partial to everything French. I love the twists and turns. A kid in landlocked Switzerland wants to learn about marine aquaculture, and after years of research in that industry, he ends up in biotech. Then he winds back into Spiny Lobster's aquaculture for seafood, and finally comes to the real discovery that you don't even need the lobster. The better business is actually in upcycling the molted shells for biotech. It's like all of Christophe's worlds are colliding in this project. I'll be curious to see if that's a trend with more seasoned entrepreneurs as we continue this podcast journey. Upcycling is another trend we're going to hear about more and more in this podcast. Thank you for listening. Please follow Happy Planet wherever you listen and leave us a rating and review. It really helps new listeners discover the show. Happy Planet was reported and hosted by me. I am also the executive producer. The talented Dylan Hoyer is our producer and editor. Composer George Brandel Egloff created our theme music. Learn more about my work and get in touch by visiting happyplanetpodcast.com.